Last stream I didn't do a good enough job at like focusing on what I was talking about, and I didn't give the ideas enough credit, I don't think. Some of them, especially from the CTMU, I think there are things I just blatantly misunderstood or misrepresented. One being the fact that logical language is the nature of reality. That's not precisely true, I'd say. I think Chris Langan's point is that there is a nature of reality. There are forces which, like, we don't easily have access to outside of expression. Not necessarily just the language or verbal language or even logical language, but expression itself. But logical language happens to be the most expressive for what I'm doing in my kind of niche of philosophy. It's not for everybody, but as a logician, I kind of believe that it is for everybody. That's not a common belief. It's something about it has changed the way my brain works, and I think it would change how everyone's brain worked if they understood it. Which is kind of like the CTMU. It's just it's hard to understand. It really is. It's hard to remember to drink water too. I always catch myself being thirsty. Basically, the idea of last stream was to describe kind of cellular thinking, that kind of domain. There are different domains, especially in philosophy. There's more of a cellular domain, and then a domain of expression and meaning and humanity, and then kind of everything else. So like the planet and the stars. You can argue how much these affect us, like individually. But I think Girard's theory of desire, which is, hang on, I just learned about this. Essentially, there's a subject in every scenario you can think of. Literally every scenario you can think of. And then there's a mediator between that subject and what that subject wants to become. It could be a physical subject or a person. I like to just think of it as you, as an individual, an identity of some sort. And then think of how that identity mediates between itself and its desire. CTMU kind of calls this fusion between the non-terminal and the terminal domain. So the terminal domain would be forms of expression like logic, which are just visual, and what I'm doing is just speaking. But obviously, the words aren't the thing. The thing is the desire, the desired outcome, which also applies to every situation. I think the point I glanced over in the last stream was that the mathematical form is just visual. It's just a way of understanding it. I think different brains work differently, but it seems really generalized, I guess. Like, to be honest, it's hard for me to explain without using the CTMU's definition of fusion between the non-terminal and the terminal. The non-terminal being what you're trying to express, and the terminal, the limitations on how you're expressing it. But the ultimate desire, especially if you're thinking about non-duality, thinking about becoming, not only becoming, but being since eternity, one with your desires. Through human action that's imitating each other. I guess certain desires are more important than others, but like, if you're in public and you witness like an act of kindness, you're more likely to act in kindness yourself, because it's part of your soul, which is unexplainable. It's totally irrational from a survival standpoint in some ways, but obviously You can argue that love and community is more important than anything. And I think Chris Langan defines that as unity. That's what I'm trying to say. The YouTube algorithm is honestly driving me insane. I think I've been misunderstanding logic to a certain degree, or not giving it enough depth. Everything's about desire. That's what I think. I think this diagram should be cemented in your mind, basically. This is mimetic desire, which means imitation. It's from ancient Greek, mimesis. At least the words sound like each other. We use it this way, though. You imitate your desire, whatever you want to become. You see it in your environment, and you kind of incorporate it into your life. But you have to do that through a mediator. I think a lot of philosophers have this idea. Like Carl Jung talks about the unconscious, dreams. Same thing with Freud. There's so many examples. Nietzsche talks about the abyss, something that mediates your existence between you and what you want to become, or what you will to become. For a lot of philosophers, it's power, but I think it's love. And I think Chris Langan thinks it's love from the CTMU. That's what Chris Langan looks like, by the way. It's so ridiculous to me. Just the juxtaposition. I think you have to think about it on levels. I think that's the key. But levels like, if you think about it like sound or something. Not just like terminal, linear, like one on top of each other, on top of one another domains. Like Marvel movies or something. That's an idea. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the multiverse theory, alludes to like powerful dimensions that can interact with ours and affect our fate. But that's love. Chris Langan thinks it's love. I think philosophers get confused and use things like power as a mediator, but what they're talking about is love. Through time, if you think about Aristotle and Plato, a lot of their ideas are hateful. I think they're getting confused with the mediator. And love is unity. It's a unity of desire. It's an object of desire. Something you can manipulate. Or that life manipulates, at least. And you imitate.